There we go. So today is the 11th day of learning, and today we're talking about phonemic awareness activities. My name is Emily Killian. I am an ed consultant here at the IU. This is my second year as an ed consultant. Previously, I was a middle school teacher, actually. So I'm late to the game of elementary reading, but it is my passion, and I'm so glad I found it. I taught in Austin, Texas, so I'm also new to Pennsylvania, and the snow is really fun. Everybody's very excited at my house. My 3 kids are very excited. So to get started, I'd like to ask if you play any rhyming games with your students. Do you recite nursery rhymes, poems, or songs? Or do you read books with wordplay or rhymes? If you said yes to any of those activities, you're already doing things to help develop your students' phonemic awareness. What is phonemic awareness? At this time, I'd like to ask you to take just a moment, and I'm not going to make you write it down, but just think about what you think phonemic awareness is. And if you would be willing to share that with me, that would be great. I'm sure you're on the right track.
Well, I think it has to do with the student's ability to hear the sounds and then eventually associate a letter with that sound.
Nice. Do you have anything to add to that, Tanya or Sean?
It's the building blocks. It's the beginning of the reading development.
Very good. It is the beginning. It is the very beginning, because you're right. It is those sounds that we hear in spoken language. Phonological awareness is an umbrella term that includes the awareness of the parts of spoken language, such as words, syllables, onset rhyme, and phonemes. The phoneme is the smallest sound or the smallest part of language that makes a difference in a word's meaning. So for example, the phonemes s and r are different, and therefore the meanings of the word sat and rat are different. So when we change those phonemes, we actually change the meaning of a word. So phoneme awareness is the awareness of and the ability to manipulate individual sounds or phonemes that we find in spoken words. Phonemic awareness is an understanding that spoken words are made up of those individual sounds that we call phonemes. A child who is phonemically aware is able to isolate the sounds, blend sounds, segment a word into different sounds, and manipulate sounds within words. Really quickly, we're going to take a look at the difference between phonemic awareness and phonics, because phonics is a heavy hitter. We all sort of know what phonics are. We probably, hopefully, are using some programming that includes phonics instruction, but a lot of times we either don't know much about phonemic awareness or we don't realize what the difference is between the two. So the main differences are where phonemic awareness focuses on sounds and phonemes, phonics focuses on those graphemes or letters. So Catherine, you're right. The goal is to eventually get to the point where we're making that correspondence between the sounds and the letters. But with phonemic awareness, we very rarely talk about those actual letters. Phonemic awareness deals with spoken language, where phonics deals with written language and print. Phonemic awareness activities, everything that you are doing is auditory. So I like to think about phonemic awareness being something that you could do in the dark. You could turn off the lights, and for the most part, your students would be able to think about or manipulate those sounds without having to look at or write anything down. Where phonics is both visual and auditory. And then last, we see that students work with manipulating sounds in words when they're working on phonemic awareness, but in phonics, they're working on reading and writing different letters. But phonics awareness is the foundation. It is the very beginning, Tanya, on which we can base our phonics instruction. So there's some really great research out there in the world of phonemic awareness. We know that it is important. One of the robust findings of reading research is that proficient reading is strongly associated with the ability to identify and remember and sequence those phonemes. The National Reading Panel has founded over 50 studies verifying. So this is actually considered settled science at this point. We don't need any more research to know that explicitly teaching phonemes is one of the most critical components of reading and spelling instruction. And then the next slide is just one that says the lack of phonemic awareness is the most powerful determinant of the likelihood of failure to read. And that's Marilyn Adams, and she is one of the leaders of reading instruction. So the most powerful. That is a very big statement right there. So what are the phonemic awareness skills? As we look at the continuum of phonemic awareness skills, we find that it's a progression from more easy to more difficult skills. Children begin being aware of language and hearing language at a very, very young age. As soon as they're born, they are starting to process those sounds. So we as parents and teachers do a lot to provide a solid foundation of language awareness, but until recently in school, we haven't really focused that much on the explicit instruction of the skills, especially the more difficult skills down at the bottom, that substitution. So we can see that the very first thing when little babies are born, they are starting already with language awareness. And then we can start seeing some rhyming and then onset fluency. So that's those beginning sounds that we hear. And then the ones with the asterisks, 4 and 6, these are where we're going to find the most bang for our buck in the world of phonemic awareness, blending and segmenting. And we're also adding in those final and medial phonemes somewhere around that time, but blending and segmenting are huge in our development of reading. And then we can start adding words and subtracting words. And then last but not least, we are substituting words and syllables, and then the very hardest skill to do is substituting phonemes. This is another way to kind of just look at that. It's a little bit more of a simple view, and you may see this when you're talking about the world of phonemic awareness. So you can see we start down there at the bottom with words. Some even say sentences, and I believe we should start with sentences and move into compound words and words. And then we move up to the syllable level. And a little trick that I like to talk with teachers about when I think about syllables is that I ask when you work on syllables with your students, if you ask them to hum rather than clap, then they have their hands available to them to do other things. So if you ask them to hum, and then you also ask them to count the syllables on their non-dominant hand, so then when they're ready to start writing and they're thinking about those syllables and they're thinking about those sounds, they've used their non-dominant hand to kind of break it up in their minds, and they still have their dominant hand available to them to write with. So if you can get in the habit of asking your students to hum and use their non-dominant hand to do the counting on, you will save them a lot of trying to remanipulate those motions when they begin picking up the pencil and making that one-to-one correspondence. Then we move up the rungs to onset and rhyme, which is different than rhyming words. Onset and rhyme are when we take a word and we listen to the very first consonant sound in the word. That is considered the onset or a consonant blend. And then when everything after that, the vowel that follows and everything after is the rhyme. So in the word cat, K is the onset, at is the rhyme. And then last but not least, we are back up at those phonemes, the individual speech sounds. So that's my kind of little overview of what phonemic awareness is. And now I'd like to get into some of the more fun stuff and some of the resources that hopefully you can take back to your classroom and use. So the first thing I want to share with you, and it looks like maybe Tanya has seen this or uses it in her classroom, I don't know, is the Orton-Gillingham or OG Sound Deck. This is an app that you can find on your iPad or phone. And it helps to either remind you if you need a refresher or work with your students to teach them how to say each of the consonant and vowel sounds properly and appropriately. And it's really funny because we think that we know these things. We're like, oh my goodness, I've been a teacher for 20 years. I've been a teacher for 15, 10, 5 years. And, you know, of course I know all the letter sounds. I know how to make all my sounds. But surprisingly, a lot of teachers just need a little bit of a reminder. So if you want to hear them correctly, this is a great place to do that. The other picture shows a little boy holding a mirror because we encourage you to use mirrors in your classroom with your students. Write in each of those individual pencil boxes. Or, you know, I know this year is really super weird if you are in person with your students at all, but that everybody has their own things and their own little thing. But included in that set of materials, each kid should have a little tiny pocket mirror. You can find them at the dollar store so that they can watch their mouths as they make these sounds. And just to go back to that OG Sound Deck, if you don't have the time to watch or you really do feel confident that you're making those sounds correctly, then that's totally fine. But I will just remind you that the most common error that is made when people are making these sounds is that schwa sound that we add to the end of our sounds. So for instance, the sound b, b, it's a very short clipped sound. But a lot of teachers will find themselves, even though they may know that sound, they may find themselves saying buh, buh, so that their students are able to hear them. So we need to make sure that we are clipping those sounds nice and tight so that our students aren't learning that the sound is buh rather than b, b. So those are the first two suggestions. And then we have that the mirror kind of leads us right to this point. This is called Spellphabet, and this is actually an Australian website and literacy company that makes little videos. So just like OG Sound Deck, these are sounds that are made correctly. However, they do have a couple of different sounds than we say here. They are from Australia, but for the most part, they are the same. And it includes videos of the speakers' mouths. So when we're practicing with our students, if they're having trouble with, the letter F making the F sound, we can show them a video of somebody else doing it along with our own mouths doing it. So those are some really good ones. So the articulatory features on Spellphabet's website will give you those mouths.
Emily, I was working on speech sounds with my son last night and trying to get him to model my speech sounds. So this may be a way as well, to use those sites. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm so glad that you might be able to use that. Okay, so now we're going to get into some activities. And I have created all of these activities. And believe me when I tell you that they are very simple. But you are most likely elementary school teachers. So I have faith that you can take making these types of slides and do it so much better than I could ever dream of, because you are creative and that's just, your thing. But they are created as drag and drop activities made in Google Slides. So if you haven't taken a couple of minutes to watch how to do that, this is an incredibly powerful tool that you can use while you're Zooming. You can share your screen and do this with your students. You can force a copy. If you don't know how to do that, it's very easy. So when you're in your Google slide deck and you look up at your top bar, it will have a slash and it will say edit. after the slash. And then it might have some letters and numbers because that's like the title of your presentation, kind of, in code form. But if you highlight the word edit and anything that comes after it up in that bar, and you replace that text with the word copy, then when you share it with your students, they will be forced to make their own copy of that slide so that they're able to use the activity on their own iPad or their own laptop. So this is a hyperlink, and I'm going to share this slideshow with you all so that you'll have access to all of the materials that I show you today. So this is a hyperlink. It says some activities to share, but it's not a link to the activities. It's actually a link to a video tutorial that teaches you how to make the Google Slide drag and drop activities. Okay, so the first activity that I have for phonemic awareness is just a really simple I Spy game. So you could do this both in the classroom, you could show this up on your projector, or through Zoom, you can share your screen and just have the kids looking at this image. And this is very simple and easy, and I know you might not be able to show Santa, but I thought it was cute. And this would be a slide where you would just say things like, I spy something that starts with the sound, and then they look around and maybe they raise their hand on Zoom or however you want to call on them, and then they get to do one for the next person. Maybe they say, I spy something that ends with the sound k, or I spy something that rhymes with the word bar. And then everybody looks for the star. So this is just a really simple, fun, easy way to just kind of practice some of those phonemic awareness skills. So simple. It's almost so simple that it's embarrassing to show you because you can totally do that yourself. You just find a little background, throw it up on your screen and play I Spy. And to find these images that have the multiple pictures, I just Google searched Christmas doodles. And if you put, for whatever reason, if you put doodles after whatever, fall doodles, Halloween doodles, Thanksgiving doodles, you will come up with like tons of images that are just lots of random little pictures. So there's another one for you. I just wanted to give you some options because I'm going to share all of this with you. The next activity is a drag and drop activity, and it's a rhyming snow globe that I made. And so for this activity, you would ask the kids to drag the words. I wouldn't use the words because remember, this is phonemic awareness. They aren't really reading yet, we would assume. But I put them there just for you to see. So maybe you could read them to them and drag, but I also put the pictures here. So you would say, ooh, look, our snow globe, this word is snow. And you would say, everybody say snow. And now let's look through these words and find the ones that match, and we will drag them into our snow globe. So you might say, blow, look, the cloud, blow. Does that rhyme with snow? Everybody says yes. And you just take it and you drag it into your snow globe. Now, as you can see, the snow globe can't move anywhere, so they can't move that around or drag it anywhere. And you would just go through. We would say, oh, look, the next picture I have here is tree. Does, the word tree rhyme with snow? And we would all say, no, it doesn't. So we would leave that one here, and then we can come to crow. Yes, we're going to slide him in. So it's just a really simple drag and drop activity for students to be aware of those sounds. I made you another one with tree. You guys can take this. I made you a blank one to just take, and you can do with it what you want. And so when I share it, feel free, please just, force a copy for your students and have at it. The next activity is a syllable game that I came up with. And this would be an activity, again, where you can just show it on your screen and you can drive, or you can share this with your students. And this would be a game where I might just say, I'm going to say a word, and I want you to hum your syllables, and then I want you to drag a snowball for every syllable you hear. The word is mistletoe. So we would say to our students, let's hum mistletoe. And they would say, and they would be counting again on that non-dominant hand. And you would say, ooh, mistletoe, I heard, how many did you hear? And you would say, oh, I heard Mm, mm, mm. So they're just building a simple little snowman, but you know, kids, they love this. They think it's fun. It's a game. So there's another one. Some other words could be, let's do mitten or decorations, gingerbread, snow. So you can just come up with whatever words you want and practice that little game. Here's another one, just another blank copy for you. The next one is the initial sound train. So this would be a game where you can decide what sound you want to put up here in the initial place. So at the very beginning of the train, we hear the sound ch. So you can see the chick up in the engine car. Let's go ahead and look at these words and see which ones start with the ch sound. Let's look. A chimp. Ooh, chimp starts with the same sound as chick. So we're just going to take him and we're going to put him in the train. So kids think this is really fun. I will say really quickly that I just realized that this train, this is me being totally nitpicky, but if I were to make this slide again for you, I would flip the train around so that that first sound was in the actual first sound place as they would see it if they were reading. So side note, and they would still think that this game is fun and they probably wouldn't put that together, but being, you know, the reading brain person I am. Okay, the next activity I want to talk to you about are called alconan boxes. You've probably used these in your classroom, whether you knew that they were called alconan boxes or not. And I just want to watch a little video, just about 1 minute, that I think does a pretty decent job explaining it, because you're probably tired of hearing me talk by now. So we're going to watch this video just for a minute or so.
Alconan boxes, video 1. How it works. Listen to the word on each slide. Then help me say each sound in the word. Watch as I move my counters for each sound in the word. You can follow along at home. If you don't have counters, you can use 3 small blocks or Legos. You can draw 3 boxes on a paper. Let's begin. Sun. Say the word sun. Now let's say each sound. S, n. Let's move our counters. S, n. Sun. The next.
Okay, so those are alconan boxes, and we can use them for a couple of different ways, but I am going to show you some examples that I made doing exactly what she just did, which is listening to a word, segmenting it into the parts, and then bringing those sounds back together and hopefully blending. So it's a very simple drag and drop activity that I made. This alconan box down here is planted right there. You cannot move it. Your students can't move it anywhere. Same with this box. But they can move these little counters. So you would say the word is hat. And everybody say the word hat. And they say hat. And you say the sounds are at. Let's drag our sounds. At. And then you ask them to drag their finger along that arrow and we say hat. So I made you a few of these and I also provided you with the blank copy. So we have mug, cup, coffee, whatever you want. But remember, we're only dragging the sounds that we hear. So not the letters. So the word coffee, you're like, oh, there's not enough spots for the word coffee. That word is too long. But k, f, e has 4 phonemes. So that would even work. And then we have snow, gift, try to, make them a couple little winter themes so you can hopefully just turn them right around and do some little activities with your students. And then here's the blank box for you to make your own. Just drag your picture right here and you're good to go. And then the very last thing that I made for you are these little finger puppets. I wanted to give you some puppets, but everything that I found online cost money. So I drew these for you and you can print them out. Right up here, if you click, is the link to the PDF, the Wintertime Finger Puppets for Phonemic Awareness. So it's my understanding that they do print out a little large, maybe, so you're going to just cut out the holes at the bottom and that gives these little guys feet. You can have your students color them or you can color them or whatever. But I would print them probably on cardstock. If you have it, that would probably be better. But I did hear that when they are printed, they're kind of big. So you may want to reduce your size a little bit if you're, tight on paper and printing accessibility. You may want to just reduce it just a tad, like 90%. So puppets, typically the kind with mouths, because obviously you can see them moving their mouths. So that's really kind of a fun thing. But puppets are a really great way to promote phonemic awareness skills with our students. And kids love, love, love puppets. While we think they're pretty cheesy, kids think that they are hilarious and they just love them. So we love to use puppets to promote those skills. And when a puppet has a mouth, you can use it to help, make those sounds. Let's make these sounds and you can open their mouth or let's say this word or whatever. You can have your puppet humming those syllables with you. But with these little guys who have legs, you might have to be a little bit more creative, but hey, I couldn't think of how to make puppets for you that had mouths to print, sorry. But I was thinking about like, how can they do this? And you could have them hop out syllables. You could have them walk together for making compound words. You could have them kick their feet up every time, something rhymes, or they could clap their little paws. So, just be creative. And if you want to use them, then by all means, feel free. I made them for you. Share them with your teachers. I don't care. And then that's it. That is all I have for you today. I'm so glad that you joined me, and I really, truly hope that you were able to walk away with just maybe one little tool that you could use or something to have in your toolbox for when you're working on those phonemic awareness activities with your students. If you have any questions, I'm here for you right now. I have time, or there's my email address. Please feel free to email me with any questions. I'm full of ideas when it comes to literacy. Part of my job here at the IU is I'm a letters trainer. So I've been through all of that and I have all sorts of really great little tips and tricks to help you help your students. So thank you so much. Have a great weekend and a happy holiday.
Thank you, Emily. Hi,
Thanks,
Kathy.
Emily. Hi.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Can I just ask one question? Will you email us the presentation? Is that how we'll get it?
Yeah, I believe, yes. Well, okay. So if we want to do that, why don't you put your emails in the chat really quick for me? And I'm happy to email you both. There's only, or the three of you, there's only three of you. So I will happily email the presentation to you. I also believe that the IU is posting it.
Oh, okay.
Website. Definitely the recording will be there, but and I will share this with them. But go ahead and put your emails in the chat box and I'll email them to you right now.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome so much.
Lots of good ideas.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
You too.